All right, you're listening to NYC Radio Live. I'm backstage with Zisl Slepovitch. We just learned that Zisl, well, you can tell us.
Well, Zisl Slepovitch. Zisl is a Yiddish name, which means sweet. Basically, was my great-grandfather's name. It's of famous musicians. Bob Dylan's Jewish name was Zisl.
And you said it could be both male and female.
Correct.
All right, and your band, the band is called
Litvakus.
And from what I understand, you guys play the hits.
Yeah, well, we play seemingly obsolete music that, as an ethnomusicologist, I was fortunate to find both in archives and doing field work in my home country, Belarus, in the 2000s, right before I moved to the States in 2008. And, we put it on stage, we put it on films, we put it in theater, we put it everywhere. And we infuse life in the music that was killed in the Holocaust. And it's extremely fun and hit music to play, and we were excited to see how people relate to it, and then how we relate. We, the modern musicians and modern people, relate to it today.
Today it was pandemonium, right? I mean, everybody was going absolutely nuts, and like I recognized one tune, which is why I thought you played the hits, because I recognized the Heiser Bulgar, which
it was a proto Heiser Bulgar. It was Heiser Bulgar was conceived, probably say conceived rather than written, by Naftali Brandwein, who's an emigre from Odessa to the United States, who came here around early 1920s, maybe 1919, and but that was the first part of that tune, was traditionally played at weddings. I mean, that was from the 19th century.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's what I meant. Yeah, it's a wedding. It works like this music. Because I had a background, I was a wedding DJ. I did over 200 weddings. So when music works, I really appreciate it. And this, a lot of the tunes that you selected for tonight, they work. I
guess that this music was, approbated by at way more than 200 weddings back in Eastern Europe, and it was figured out what exactly works and in what way. So these tunes were actually recorded in the 1920s and 30s when the ethnomusicologists started taking phonograph, the wax cylinder machine on the road. So it was right before the Holocaust, and that was in the upheaval of urbanization when this tradition already started kind of to vanish gradually. So, but it obviously dates back to the heyday when this music was sounding all the time and everywhere in urban areas, in smaller urban areas like shtetls. Shtetl is a smaller urban setting, and villages. So it definitely had quite a long track of probation in the field.
Right, yeah. So, okay, so these guys are playing it, and is a musician a traditional and accepted and respected job amongst families in the shtetl? Like that was a decent gig, or was it looked down upon by the more religious folks?
Well, quite the opposite. It was kind of a known dichotomy of a love, of a kind of aesthetic urge that people had, and one of the ethnomusicologists who recorded a lot of this Jewish folk music, Moisei Beregovsky, was writing that people were leaving their jobs behind them and running like crazy when they heard a klezmer band, a traveling klezmer band who would entering the town to play an event, supposedly a wedding. So that was clearly that was their Philharmonic Hall. That was all they had. On the other hand, when I teach Yiddish, and then I talk about Jewish music to my students, I say, I started my class with this saying, Yiddish saying, Tochterkes is nicht a chosen, es ist a klezmer. Daughter, it's not a groom, it's a musician. So this saying says it all.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. It was not a stable work. I sing a song that I recorded in Minsk about Mendel Parikmacher, Mendel the barber. So apparently it was about the barber who had a famous klezmer band, his family klezmer band with his 3 daughters. So obviously he had this double occupation which was sanctioned in the society, unlike being a musician. Yes, everybody knew that his band, I'm literally translating this lyric, is the best band out there, but still he's a parikmacher, he's a barber. He had to kind of justify his, him being in the society.
So yeah, it gives you a little more. A barber, a tailor, these type of jobs were
Yes, any lay people or a rabbi or any clergy, that kind of, so somebody who served everyday needs of community. And musicians, they were needed once in a blue moon when weddings were not every day. So.
And there was no gigs in the synagogues.
No, sometimes, rarely so, but really rarely so, because people just could not afford it. Again, from the interviews I made with many people, like older people, I would ask them, do you remember musicians? No, it was such poor families. We just put a patephone, with a record already in the 30s. We just danced to that. We couldn't afford to hire a band. So that was the reality. People were really living really poor.
And so you've discovered, you've been digging through these old recordings. What are you learning about the lyrics of the music of that time?
I mean, the lyrics represented all sides of life. And, work, and the kind of holy side, the Shabbos and all the Jewish holidays, and even the conversion. Our other program we do with the Berlin-based singer Sasha Luria called Goyfriend. There's some Shmat ballades, converts ballads. So we do half of that is some mocking songs of the Gentiles, addressed at the Jews, like look those funny Jews, they don't eat pork, something like that, like in Latvian.
So that would be the lyrics of the song.
That would be the lyrics of the Gentiles people's song, the Latvian and Polish, and then the Jews would retaliate and they would sing something about the Goyim, the Gentiles, like look, the gods have hands but they cannot do anything with them. They're mute. They're basically just idols, and our God is living. So they were just mocking each other, although living for centuries, living along with each other and sharing these cultures and co-shaping each other's. That's the whole idea of that. So the lyrics were all about the everyday life and themselves and their neighbors, and just like today, I guess.
Is there in some traditions there's like a bawdy song tradition, totally irreverent stuff. I imagine maybe there was music like that, and if there was, was anything recorded that was just particularly irreverent?
Nothing was too inappropriate. There were internal wars in the Jewish society itself, so there were deliberately inappropriate lyrics aimed to criticize or ironize at another group. So, for example, Hasidim were mocking the Misnagdim, the Litvaks, and the vice versa. And there were songs, the same repertoire, that was migrating from one camp to the other. There's a song like I'm such a good chassid, I'm such a devoted chassid, and it was used as an irony, as a parody on it's an anti-Hasidic song.
And I'm such a good chassid. What was the example of when they had the mocking lyric?
It was not explicitly mocking them, but it was ironizing. I'm such a good, self-righteous kind of, and it was more about the manner of performance.
Interesting. And how about? I feel that there's a lot of humor just baked into Yiddish itself, or at least, yeah. So are there other kind of comical kind of songs that you've unearthed?
Well, when we talk about the kind of pre-revolution, World War I tradition, the early tradition, I think it's not as much of the humor was perceived as a tool of overcoming the difficulties of really hard everyday life. So it's kind of that kind of humor which was found in songs about all kinds of occupational songs. That I'm having nothing, I'm earning nothing, a dollar with a hole in it, but I'm having fun from this life. Or I retaliated my hostile landlord. It was some kind of joke or something. So it was like overcoming hardships of everyday life. It was really that kind of thing.
So what are your like goals with the recording project, and what are you trying to? Because some projects, people are like, this is my own take. I'm gonna take this, but blend it with whatever, Indian music, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that. Like what's like your angle? What's driving you to push the project forward?
Well, this particular project, Litvakus, we're focusing primarily on the Belarusian, Lithuanian, Litvak Jewish musical tradition. It was my discovery. I was really taken away when I heard the rare tapes, not the tapes, the wax cylinders in St. Petersburg. When I heard the manner of the performance, it was something very different. So I realized we have to bring it back. We have to not just bring the repertoire. A lot of that was pan-European, pan-Eastern European repertoire, but also the manner, different instrumentation. We use the shawms, we use some double reeds, and we use a lot of sympathetic drone strings on string instruments. So it's very ringing, very drony sounds, which corresponds with that of the Belarusian and Lithuanian and Eastern Polish tradition. So, in other words, every local Jewish tradition was heavily shaped by its surrounding, and I think that's a big project. And there's a lot of repertoire and a lot to discover there. Although it's long gone, that the heyday of that tradition. But I think that it's worth just keeping discovering. There are blogs like Yiddish Song of the Week online where people submit, including myself, we submit our tapes and liner notes about folk songs recorded decades ago or recently, and it's a treasure trove, and there are songs from that region as well that have to be interpreted, that have to be represented again. And so it's really a lot. And like 3 summers ago, I spent 2 months transcribing over 100 tunes from wax cylinders from Sofia Magid's collection, which I'm planning to publish, and we're playing just a handful of those so far.
And is there a project to digitize all these wax cylinders? Is that underway?
They are they were digitized by the Russian Institute of Russian Literature, the Pushkinsky Dom, in St. Petersburg. But they, for legal reasons, they cannot be put out there in free access. Unfortunately, the staffers, the professionals who work there, they want to do it, but they cannot. So that's a whole other thing. So there are scholars and there are musicians who access those collections and who take them on stage, who make publications, basically make them accessible by all kinds of audiences.
Wow. So where do people start if this is a whole new world for them, Jewish music in general? Where does somebody where do they dive in? Is there one like artist that is so irresistible, or?
No, there isn't anything one in anything Jewish. It's very noisy. It's very multiphonic or polyphonic, and of course there are many Jewish traditions, many Jewish ethnoses. And many Jewish languages, over 30 Jewish languages, most of which are extinct by now. But still, they were recorded, and those musical traditions were recorded. So there are anthologies that present those collections, record those traditions, like. Hebrew University in Jerusalem puts out this series of Jewish musical traditions in diaspora. So there are about 30 CDs with books that came out there. There was a Bet Atfutzot, the Museum of Diaspora in Tel Aviv. They also put out, they had a music center, also put out about two dozen of CDs that represent different Jewish traditions, from India to Caribbean to Europe to everywhere. So I would recommend if somebody is really dedicated to explore that, to look up the collections of Hebrew University, the Museum of Diaspora in Israel. But then there are so many others, and if you look up Klezmer there are also so many publications, good and not so good, and frankly bad. I can't recall all of them by heart, even good ones, but it's a whole ocean of things, and it's developing. It's living. Like we're sitting here today, we're making something today. We're taking it somewhere by playing it for the new audiences, some of whom probably have heard it for the first time in their lives.
I had this moment where, we're at Golden Fest, and there's the Balkan dancing and the Macedonian and the Greek, and there's always people who know what they're doing, and they even have more status if they're from the ethnic group. And basically, there was no one during your section that there was no clear leader of those dances, and I had this moment where I'm like, wow, this is one culture I can take advantage of because I'm Jewish. So I'm like, hey, it's like this, da 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 da. So that there's a liberating element to actually studying one's own culture, in that you can't be accused of appropriating it, right?
Well, yes and no, because this music was created with a certain dances in mind, which we don't know. Dances are the worst recorded medium of art. When there were wax cylinders and tapes around, there were not videotapes, so they were not available to ethnographers. So dances were not really recorded. But you make a great point. It makes this accessible. I wouldn't limit it to just one ethnic group or a religious group. I think it's not right. It's right to own whatever you do. I think that's the key word to what everybody's doing at this festival. They own whatever they do. That makes it really authentic and genuine. And let me just tell you, I try to not get into politics, but it's a really kind of hard moment for me when I'm witnessing this whole talk about cultural appropriation. It's really disheartening, because what cultural appropriation really is, when somebody's taking advantage of a underserved, disadvantaged group somewhere, and they're selling their, making money on them while they're impoverished, living in poverty somewhere, and say somewhere, right? And this is something else. This is about sharing, and this is about disseminating the culture. And everybody can participate in any of it, in Serbian, in Jewish, in Belarusian, and you name it. It should be open for everyone. There's no cultural appropriation here. Not possible. We're co-creating and recreating that, and we're participating in it together.
Well, amen to that.
Yep.
Thanks for your time. Great set. And are there any other projects we should know about that you have going on?
Well, I also have a trio, Zisl Slepovitch trio, and we are playing improvised music based on the roots music and early music, and with Nadav Lev on the guitar, Dmitry Ishenko on the bass.
Roots music and early music of who?
In general, we look at different sources, primarily European and early European music or early Western music. And we do improvised music, take it place.
Early, how many centuries are we talking?
From late Renaissance to Baroque, and traditional roots music, as in Slavic and Balkan and French, Normandy, etc. And we improvise on that. So we play a set on February 1st at the Dive Bar, 2662 Broadway, Uptown. We do that.
Nice.
I've just recorded an album for the Yale University portion of Video Archive of Holocaust Testimonies. That was a fascinating project. Will be out soon. So basically, I was sourcing out the songs and poetry in the Holocaust survivors' testimonies. A lot of that is really heavy stuff, and I was arranging it, sometimes composing music if it was just poems, and artistically representing it with my band and with Sasha Luria from Berlin. And we just recorded that. Will be out on an LP, and we'll play a concert at Yale, New Haven on March 30th, and I'll play a concert in New York, which is not set yet. That's another fascinating project I've been doing. I'm also playing in Yiddish Fiddler on the Roof, playing half a year in Museum of Jewish Heritage. We're moving uptown, so if you didn't get a chance to see it, or you did and you want to see it again, we'll play stage 42, beginning February 11th for 20 weeks up there. Fiddler auf dem Dach in Yiddish.
Oh, it's a Yiddish version.
It is in Yiddish. Was translated 50 years ago by Shraga Friedman in Israel, and it was a total fiasco then and there, and it's a smashing success now in New York.
Well, thanks for your time. This was fun.
Thank you so much, man.